A family was awakened by their smoke detector in the middle of the night to discover that their house was on fire. The father ran to the upstairs bedroom of his children and carried his 8-month-old baby in his arms while dragging his 4-year-old son by the hand. They were halfway down the stairs when the little boy remembered that he left his teddy bear in the bedroom. So he broke free from his father's hand and ran back to the bedroom to retrieve it. In the confusion, the father didn't notice that his son wasn't with him until he was outside. By now, the boy was trapped in the flames and the smoke in the second-story bedroom. Smoke swirled around him, and he coughed and cried out from the upstairs window, "Daddy, Daddy, help me!" His father yelled from below, "Jump out the window, Andy. I'll catch you." In the darkness and the smoke, the little boy yelled back, "But Daddy, I can't see you." The daddy shouted back, "It's okay, son. I can see you. Jump." That story is kind of like us. We're outside the window, and all of our friends and coworkers who are unsaved are in the second story window in a burning building. And because we're afraid of what they might think or what they might do, we don't tell them to jump when we have the opportunity. And that's where in Romans 1:16 says, "I'm not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes." I am not ashamed of the gospel. Paul's writing this to the Romans, and why would a man like Paul be ashamed? He sings in chains while he's in prison, but he might be ashamed because of the persecution he might receive. Christians in his time were persecuted as much as we are today. We're afraid of what our friends, family might think if they knew how much we loved God or how much we loved Christ. They might think that we're going overboard. But what is going overboard? Is it too much when one of your family members or friends changes their life for God because of what you've done? I'm not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes. Paul was educated, and the wise thought that the gospel was foolish. Wise people today still think the gospel is foolish. And sometimes we're made fun of because we believe in an old book. But it's not just an old book. It's the truth, and that's what they need. And if our actions are real, we'll show them the truth, and they'll see it through us. Christians were labeled atheists. Now, hearing that, it sounds kind of weird, because when you're an atheist, you don't believe there is a God. But the Romans believed in many gods, and when the Christians only believed in one, that's just what the name they gave them. People follow the world's way, and they're worshiping the fame, the money, and all the power that they can get. But we worship the God and need to only focus all our attention on Him. We take away the power of God by worshiping ourselves, our desires, and our wants. We make our God small with our excuses, when instead we can make our God big with our abilities, or with His abilities through us. I am not ashamed of the gospel. We walk around at times and we're ashamed to share the gospel. But that is wrong. And it means that we're ashamed of Jesus and what He did for us. We need to step out of our comfort zone and be real. If we would open our eyes to what God is trying to tell us and to show us, and not focus on our own things and our own problems instead, but focus on Him, we would see the people hurting and that need somebody to love them. Thank you.
If you, there it is with my phone. If you open your eyes, if your prayer is that God would give you eyes to see, like we heard earlier from the song, if we open up our eyes and we look around us, we can see a world full of people that are hurting. And sometimes the church becomes a cathedral for saints. And we forget that some of the lost and lonely people don't look like us. They don't dress like us. But they need us. Because we're the tool God chooses to use to share his son with them. And if we walk around with blinders on and we walk around and don't see, then how are they going to know? Paul says that. If our eyes aren't open to the people God is touching and the people God wants to touch, and the woman at the well, and the sinners and the tax collectors, and the people that just don't look right or talk right, if we don't speak to them, then how will they know? Who's going to tell them if not us? That's the purpose of the church. Take a look around this week. Who is God asking you to reach out to? Don't walk away unchanged. If you would, please join me. Stand with your feet. Stand to your feet. Just bow your heads and just focus for a minute on where you're at. In 1 Peter, he talks about God building a church. And the church is the people. The church is us. What kind of building do you have? What kind of building are you? Ask yourself, it's a little poem, but it's got some deep meaning to it. Just ask yourself, what kind of church would my church be if all of its members looked just like me? Would it be a church that reaches out? Would it be a church that loves? Would it be a church that's welcoming? Would it be a church that's being the hands and feet of God? Being Christ in the world? Our prayer before this and my prayer now is that God would speak to you today through the students. And I want to give you an opportunity, whether you're comfortable coming forward, making a decision right where you stand. Here, please don't walk out the door and go right back to what you did before. You say, but I did good stuff. I reached out. I do my best to be a tool used by God. If you do that, that's fabulous. But D.L. Moody said this: the world has yet to see a human being completely sold out to the will of God. We can all improve. We can all do better. We can all open our eyes a little bit more. We can all reach out. Just where you're at. I want to give you an opportunity, again, like I said, after I'm done praying, if you feel a desire to come forward and kneel at our altar here and just take some time and talk with God, we can do that. To make a decision where you stand, that just to be obedient to what God's putting on your heart is the most important thing. But what I want you to do is when we're done praying, make a decision. Make a decision to act as told you today.